We are beginning our exploration of chapter 29. So we're going to start with a very strong disclaimer that the concepts in this chapter we do not practice today. So you might be thinking, all right, press next. Like, why are we learning it? Well, first of all, let's appreciate why we're not learning it today and why learning it today actually has a tremendous impact, which is why I actually think this is one of the most important chapters of Tanya. So this is called the ego crushing chapter. It's where we learn in the past how we would deflate our ego when we have this symptom called timtum halev, which is complacency. We're going to talk all about what that is in a moment. But really the idea is that through crushing oneself, I'm crushing the sitra achra, the klipa, the negativity within myself, and therefore I'm going to have a new expansiveness within myself. So why don't we do that today? Because in this generation, when we crush ourselves, when we crush the ego, it doesn't like allow the godliness to flow more out of us. It just crushes us and we're just destroyed. And so this is very vital information to know. And so why are we saying this? Because the Rebbe said that through what we could accomplish through, crushing the ego in the past, we can accomplish through simcha, through joy. And the mimer, the Hasidic discourse that my husband chose to say at our engagement, as is customary to say a Hasidic discourse, is actually Meragala de Pama Rabba, which is, we call it like the Simcha mimer. It's where the Rebbe says that in this generation, we only have strength for encouragement. That's it. The only thing that works for us is encouragement. Harshness, bitterness, being hard on ourselves, it just destroys us. So I thought it was funny. It was like letting me know, okay, like this is the derech of our house. This is all we can handle over here, okay? It's encouragement. Meaning putting someone down in order to build them up, no longer a thing. And why I think it's so important to explore this chapter is, first of all, it's Torah, it's Tanya, has its own inherent value. So it's important to learn Tanya. It's also important to know the Rebbe's perspective on Tanya, as the Rebbe is the Moshe in our generation. It is giving us the up-to-date version of how we're really supposed to live with these ideas of Tanya. And so why I think it's so important to be going over these ideas specifically is so that I don't go around and crush myself or crush other people. We gotta know exactly how it's done, know exactly what the best tactic to do it is, and know that when I do that in this generation, now is it not only going to be effective, it's actually going to hurt the person. Okay, so we're going to discuss this more throughout. Let's get started. So the Tanya is addressing the spiritual setbacks that a person could have, and it's going to stop them from fulfilling the mission of the Beinoni, which is the different skills we've learned thus far, and we're going to continue to learn. So previously we looked at the setback of sadness. Now we're looking at the setback of timtum halev. Let's define that. Timtum halev is a blockage of the heart, right? Timtum is a blockage, connected with tuma, right? A blockage of the heart, lev. It's apathy. It's an energy blockage. It is complacency. The symptoms of timtum halev are when a person is meditating on ideas that naturally could give them, a godly feeling, a love and awe towards God, and they don't feel anything, numb. The other thing that happens, the lack of sensitivity to kaddish atzmacha b'mutzelach, like we previously learned, to sanctify yourself and what is permissible. That boundary, that sensitivity, is being blocked by this complacency mode, by this blockage of the heart. So the example that the Tanya brings, let's say you're trying to get a log to catch on fire, but it's not catching. So what's the simple solution? Is splinter it, and it's going to catch immediately. It's too thick. And so what I have in the back is a picture of a silo burning, because flour won't burn. It's too compressed. But let's say all the flour is scattered up in the air, right? There's wind that comes through, and then there's fire. Every little bit is going to combust. Why? Because it's so thin, it's so separate, it's so fragmented that it's able to be combusted. And so the idea that we're using the analogy here is that by splintering the ego, by chopping it up, by having it out with it, having intervention with it, then I'm going to be able to light it on fire. And what's that fire is actually have love for God. I'm actually going to be able to get this numbness and this complacency and feel something for God. So a soul that is not getting caught on fire with love of God, splinter it, right? I'm trying to meditate on God, nothing's happening, trying to feel some love and awe over here, nothing, splinter it. Quote from the Zohar Kodesh: if a body won't give out the light of its soul, crush it, and the light of the soul will shine through. Meaning, it's not crushing it for the sake of crushing, it's crushing it for a very specific purpose, so it can ignite, so I can actually feel something, so I can have a love and an awe and a joy in my votus Hashem and serving God once again. And meaning, if this is blocked, it's blocked in all areas of my life. I'm not having geschmack, I'm not having delight in any areas of my life with timtum halev. So, ouch, right? Okay, like what, I need to splinter myself? Like, ouch. So what is it referring to? It's not talking about body mortification, God forbid. It's talking about ego-deflating sessions, right? The sitra achra, the ego within, it's the ability to crush it, and therefore allow the light of my soul to shine through. So this is an emergency measure. So first of all, we're saying in this generation it doesn't work with us. We're our own breed, okay? We are B'nai Geula. We're the children living in the times before the ultimate redemption. We're sensitive, okay? Let's just put it like that. So even back in the day when egos were thicker and coarser and harder, and like someone could take a good beat up of the ego and like they'd feel refreshed from it, like they wouldn't feel dead afterwards, they'd feel more alive. Still, this was an emergency measure, okay? So apathy is the most dangerous spiritual block. It is more spiritually dangerous and damaging than sadness, okay? So that's why this emergency measure needs to be taken. So what's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know, and I don't care. So we have an example in halacha of a snake versus a scorpion. So let's say, in the example is like, let's say a snake is coming towards you and a person's in prayer. It talks about it in the Mishnah. So if the snake's coming towards the person should continue saying prayer, specifically meaning Shema and Esrei, the Amidah, the prayer where it literally means the standing prayer where you're not moving because you're like in a higher spiritual realm. So you're just like you're totally all in. You're in Devekas. You're glued to that experience. So if a snake comes towards you, you're supposed to continue praying. But if a scorpion comes close to you, you shouldn't move. And what's the difference? This is not talking about actual halacha. It's a metaphor for this spiritual reality that we're talking about. Because a snake venom is warm versus a scorpion is cool. So we're learning from that spiritually speaking, once again, we're not talking about practical halacha here. We're talking about the spiritual idea behind it, is that being cooled off is a lot worse than something negative that has fire to it, right? So once I'm cooled off, there's almost like, until I'm open again, until I'm warmed up, there's nothing to work with, right? With apathy, at least if someone's mad at God, okay, so there's an emotion, there's something to work with, or I'm upset at God, I care enough to be upset. But when I'm just apathetic, I don't care, right? There's just no feeling going on here. I'm just numb. That is the greatest spiritual blockage that we could have.